a little bit too much breathing room here. Okay, and then it's kind of obvious, right, what we're doing. And then at the very end of this, we'll write nslog. Wow, I don't know why I did that. The @ symbol, and then the quote symbol. By the way, the reason you put that @ in front of the quote symbol like that is because it differentiates that this is Objective-C versus I guess like a C type string, anyway, from what I've read. Okay, let's write in here the current speed is, and now we're going to repeat back a variable. And to do that, you put the percentage sign there, and then you put a letter according to what type of variable that is. So in this case, it's going to be an integer, so we write I. That's kind of easy to remember. Another one you are going to put would be the @ symbol again, okay, which refers to it being a string type or an object type, actually. Some other ones are F for float. I'll try to remember to copy in somewhere a kind of helpful sheet that I pasted from somewhere myself of those various data types, and then what type of letter you put in after the percentage. But it always begins with that percentage there, and then I'm going to put finish off my quote, and then do a comma, and then I write in here current speed, and let's publish it out to make sure this is working. Okay, current speed is 1, 2, back to 0, 1. And now let me show you what I think is a much better way of doing this. Or not better, or I don't know. It's just a cooler way, maybe. Okay, underneath my import statement up here at the top, I'm going to write define, and then I'm going to write slow, and then 0. And you don't actually have to put a semicolon after that. So we're done there. Then I'm going to define medium as 1, and then you guessed it, fast as 2. Now, jumping back down here, I'm going to replace these with what I just wrote, slow, and you can see too that it's got that color change in there, which is a good sign. Medium, and then fast. Okay, now forget about this kind of nslog statement for right now. That can stay as it is. But like later on in this file, if I wanted to kind of do something based on the current speed, I could just go and write, well, here's an example. I could put in if current speed equals fast, then in that case, we'll make this variable equal 1, and otherwise if it equals slow. And by the way, don't forget to do your double equal signs in these if statements. If it equals slow, then we'll set that to be 5 seconds. So let's publish this out again, and I'll make it fast. So fade out. All right. I think I got to restart it. There we go. So we'll set it back to slow, fade out, and sure enough, that's going to take all of 5 seconds to get up there. And that's I think that's just a nice little convenience to do this. I started to do it midway through the airstrike project I was on, and it just helps you out so much because you're not having to remember like, oh, if this equals 1 or 2 or whatever, because after a while and after tons of different variables, it's so much easier mentally to just go, oh man, if I'm at the slow speed, if that equals slow, then do this. Like here's another example. I'm just gonna paste this in really quick. On a project that I'm working on right now, I've been defining which screen I'm at, okay, by a number. So like if I press a button and I make all of my preferences show up, I'm gonna say, well, current screen equals pref screen, okay, and really that just again equals 1, okay. So the compiler can know that it equals 1. But as far as I'm concerned, it's current screen just equals pref screen. It's just a simple way of thinking about it. All right, so oops, let's cut back out of that. And well, now that I've started talking about screens like that, I guess it's worth mentioning that obviously so far in this tutorial we haven't talked about actually loading up a different view, which is probably how you're going to end up swapping out different screens. Like at this moment we have our preferences bars right here mixed in with our main view controller. Okay, ideally you'd probably want to create a new file, which would be a new UI view controller subclass, and let's see. Well, you probably want to click on, you definitely want to leave on with zib for user interface, and you could call this pref screen. Also create the H file for it and finish it up like that. So when it does that, then you would you'd probably want to just take your nib file, drag it over here into your resources with the rest of the nib files, and then so at that point you'd have then an entirely different class for your settings, okay, and an entirely different nib file, and that's something we'll I guess we'll talk about in a little while. But I'm sure you guys have been kind of curious about that as you've been watching this, like how do you kind of manage tons and tons of different screens, and because you really don't want to be piling too much stuff into your main view controller like this. The view controller is kind of supposed to be exactly what it says, like a controller for the view. So you might have a few kind of like top level buttons, things like let me bring up the game that I made again. I should just open up the freaking Xcode project. But like in my case, I had, well, here, let me just play this movie right here. Let me turn the sound off though. So I had this start mission options and then the view perks. Those were all buttons that were on the main view controller, okay? But whereas like everything else that you're seeing right here was loaded in from an entirely different nib file or class, okay? And then like, so start mission would switch out what you're seeing here with the main part of the game. And I think in the end I only had probably 4 or 5 different class files or nib files. You can think of it like that too. One was for the start screen, one was for the preferences screen, one was for the these little upgrades, okay, these guys, and then there was just one screen for the entire gameplay. And obviously that ended up being a lot of code, but it's the fancier your game, the more stuff you're going to kind of pile into one place like that. So I'd say when you guys are thinking about your game, how you're going to build it up, think of dividing things into different views like that. But I would assume that one of those is going to be a pretty hefty implementation file with a lot of code in it, and that's just kind of the name of the game. There's if you start looking up into the Apple help documents, or just people online talking about building things for the iPhone, they refer back to this what's called MVC, model view controller design pattern, where your model is like your data, your view is obviously like your little views, like your pref screens and stuff like that, and your controller is things like this view controller here. I think there's a lot of kind of idealistic principles behind that, where you're always separating all your data from your model and your view or whatever, or I'm sorry, your view and your controllers.